On Algebra 1, 003, you're going to do two things. One is you are going to sketch the parabola below of whatever is listed here. The parent function will always be here for you for comparison purposes. And then you're also going to fill in this chart on this side over here. So I decided to do number 6 for you. So let's jump ahead to number 6. So here's my quadratic equation written in vertex form that I want to sketch. Here's just a reminder of vertex form. So there's four things rather, I want to look out for. One is if there's a k value, it's going to be an up and down shift on the graph. The second is that if there's an h value, it's going to be a left or right shift on the graph. The a value, its absolute value, will either make the parabola wider or narrower than the parent. And if it's positive or negative, will change the direction that it faces. So on this example here, I notice that I have a k value of -1, so that's going to shift my parabola down 1 unit. I have an h value of 2, so that's going to shift my parabola right 2 units. And then I have an a value of positive 1/4, and since that's less than 1, it's going to make my parabola wider than the parent. It's still going to face upward. So I'm going to go 2 to the right and down 1. That's going to be my vertex, and then I'm just going to sketch that it's wider. And since it's just a sketch, it doesn't have to be perfect. I would say the only part that should be pretty accurate is that vertex right there. So my vertex is going to be 2, -1. And on the previous video, I mentioned that the vertex, when it's in vertex form, is always going to be h, k. And this is my vertex right here. It asks for a label on the graph. That's my vertex. It was a horizontal shift to the right 2 spaces. It was a vertical shrink, so shrink is going to be wider, where stretch is going to be narrower. It was a vertical shift down 1 space. It still opens upward. Now it's asking for my axis of symmetry. So my axis of symmetry is going to be that vertical line that splits the graph in half. And if you remember doing transformations when we did reflections, rotations, dilations, etc., this is like almost like the line of reflection, where if I were to fold on this line, this black parabola would land on top of itself. And so all parabolas will have a line of symmetry. That's a vertical line that passes through that vertex. It's going to cut the parabola in half. So I drew that line. This is my axis of symmetry. And then it also wants the equation of the axis of symmetry. So because it's a vertical line, that means that every point along this line, like for example, this is 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2. So every point along that line has the same x value, and that x value happens to be 2 in this case. So my axis of symmetry line is going to be x equals 2. Your axis of symmetry equation is always going to be an x equals equation. The maximum or minimum value of this function. So for this part, I want you to picture yourself standing up tall and reaching your hand as high as it can go. That would be the maximum that you could reach. And then similarly, if you stand up and reach as low as you could go, that would be the minimum that you could reach. Then imagine you walk 10 spaces to the right or left, and you reached up again. You can still reach the same height that you could reach before. So it doesn't matter how far left or right you'd be standing in the room. All that matters is how high or low you can reach. And so for a parabola, the maximum or the minimum is just going to be how high or low it goes. Now in this case, my parabola is going upward forever. It's never stopping, so it's never going to reach a maximum. But it does kind of bottom out here. And so in this case, it has a minimum value. So I'm going to circle the fact that it has a minimum value. And the lowest on the graph that this parabola goes is -1. So my minimum value is -1. And so for that, it's only going to be this y coordinate of my vertex. It's not the entire vertex, because I could take this whole parabola and I could even like shift it over here and it would still reach down 1 space. So it's important to remember that the maximum or the minimum is just going to be the y coordinate of the vertex. So you'll be finishing this sheet in class today, and you'll be uploading a picture of it tomorrow to Google Classroom.